Welcome to Gracefully Charmaine. My name is Charmaine Respis, where we talk about life, church, mental health, and everything in between. But today we're talking about men's health, PTSD awareness. And so I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Josh Burley. It's crazy that I'm saying Mr. Josh Burley. I remember when you were just a child and here in the youth ministry here at Antioch. And so what a pleasure it is to have you here today. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good, First Lady. I'm trying to survive the summer heat.
I know. It's only June. It's only June.
Yes.
So prayerfully it won't be too bad. We've had a lot of rain so far, so hopefully it'll be a relatively cool summer. So hopefully we'll see. But tomorrow's the first day of summer, and so definitely try to stay cool as much as possible.
Yes, ma'am.
But again, I want to welcome you to Gracefully Charmaine podcast, where we talk about just everything. And but today is a special day because we're talking about men's health. PTSD awareness, and I wanted to really talk about your story, one man's story, and your journey, and not only just your journey, but being a young adult and what that looks like. And so, just some questions, a casual conversation here. So relax. I promise you, I won't put you on the spot, but
it's all good. No problem. I'm used to it at this point.
But I've known you for quite some time.
Yes.
And so, and we're going to talk a little bit about your life just growing up, and just your experience from growing up as a child to your adolescent life to transitioning to going to an HBCU, Grambling.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Go Tigers.
From there. So yes. And now to adulthood. But just take me back a little bit, Josh, to growing up. What messages did you receive about how men are supposed to handle pain? Particularly as a young adult, what kind of messages did you receive growing up?
Well, for one thing, the biggest thing that people hear this a lot, but this is also told to me as well. That the idea as far as like emotions are concerned, like we're not allowed to really showcase our emotions. Like whenever we are experiencing conflict or anything else like that, we're supposed to like remain neutral. We're supposed to, in a way, at least for me, we're supposed to remain guarded. Because even the idea of just expressing our pain, our struggles, our giants, we can't share all that stuff. Sometimes they tell us to man up and like handle your business. And and that was one of the biggest, I think for me, growing up, because I come from a homeschool background. So growing up with being number 2 out of 8 kids, we just weren't exposed to a lot of stuff too much. But as we started getting into our teenage years and stuff like that, that's when because we come from a military background, we had to like stay in a certain mindset where we're not only just not just misrepresenting our families, but not only not misrepresenting ourselves as well. So there was a lot of pressure, and there was a lot of we couldn't be authentically ourselves in a way. So it kind of felt like for me, it felt like I was on my own.
Okay, on your own. You talk about being homeschooled and then also military background, and I know homeschool has become very popular now. A lot of parents are pulling their children out of public school and homeschooling their children. But pretty much when you were growing up, it was not something that was new, but it was still relatively questionable, like homeschooling your children. Can you kind of explain a little bit more, how that homeschooling environment impacted you today? Because we tend to look at those who are homeschooled, they're not as well-rounded, but really, can you share with me your own personal experience from being homeschooled and then transitioning to public school? Because you did graduate from Guyer High School, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
So what was that transition like for you? And did you have any, not necessarily PTSD possibly, but just more awareness because you were insulated as a child, being homeschooled, and then also having that military background? What was that like for you?
So that was a rough experience, mainly because we were sheltered for years in on out. Like the only time we got to socialize was really at church, because we grew up in a very structured, a very guarded homeschool background. So by the time I got into Guyer, I felt like I missed out on a lot of stuff growing up, because there was a lot of shows we couldn't watch growing up, because our focus, at the time was, getting to college and stuff like that. But at the same time, we couldn't. It was hard, at least for me, to associate with the students, my classmates, my age, and stuff like that. And there was stuff I couldn't watch until, even while I was in high school, there was stuff I just couldn't watch because it was that strict, unfortunately. But even with that, just affiliating myself with my classmates, with people, it was hard. And it took really just being around the right group of people that were actually able to listen, to understand, to really, get me outside of my shell a little bit. And one of the biggest habits, one of the bad habits that we as homeschoolers face, that we've been told that we do, we talk about ourselves a lot. Because we don't know. We don't know anything about people. We don't know anything. Not all of us, but there's just things that we know based off of our own. That was our lifestyle, because we didn't know anything outside of our own walls.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, it's your own personal experience. It's your personal experience, versus mine or someone else, that may have, grew up in a public, school environment. And so it can be traumatic for anyone sometimes, that transition from being really insulated in an environment where it's just you and your family, and then you transition to a public setting where it's not just you and your family, it's just you and 2,000 or 3,000 other kids. Because Texas schools, especially like Allen High School, is like 6,000 students, so they're pretty large, and so I think definitely traumatic. But I, appreciate you sharing that, that transition for you being difficult, and really trying to find people to understand where you're coming from, your background, transition from being at home and now being in a public setting where you're around other people and having to engage and interact, so. But how did trauma, show up in your daily life, family, school, friendships, relationships? When you look back and reflect over your life, and we think about PTSD, because it's not just, for me, when I think of PTSD, when it was initially defined, what we thought PTSD was someone who's only in the military, and they experienced some trauma, or someone who had a very traumatic experience in life, and so, but now we see PTSD as just a gamut of so many things. So for you, when you think about trauma in your daily life, how did it show up, at home, in the school, friendships, relationships, transition from homeschool to public school, then to HBCU? How did that show up daily?
It showed up daily. Well, first off, to say without saying, there was a lot of, I guess how it showed up daily for me. This is kind of a little bit rough for me to say, but if anything, for me, I came from an abusive situation as well. So with dealing with that, it was hard just to talk about it, because coming outside of that homeschool background, it was hard to talk to certain people. It was hard to talk to certain church folks. It was hard to talk to classmates, because even then, people tend to rate trauma. Okay, no, your trauma ain't as bad as mine. Even if there was times where I've gone to Devin and shared my story, to the extent where it was neglected. I was taken advantage of at the time frame, even when I was at Graham. It was one of those things where it just got to the point of time frame where certain people just did not care. So it resulted for me as far as like, who can I share my story with? Is it okay for me to share my story? And as time progressed on, I'm like, I can't talk to nobody. It is hard, and a lot of times, a lot of us go through that because we get judged too quickly. We get minimized too quickly, thinking, okay, nah, that ain't nothing. Wait till you ain't in my situation. And it got to that point where I locked in so heavily, where I started going in, like, I guess, and then to answer your question, going back to your question as far as where it resurfaced, it resurfaced whenever I saw people that shared the similar personalities that shared the same personalities of the people that, or at least the person that harmed me. So.
Okay. So you kind of showed up in similar situation, or people that were similar, to where you experienced trauma.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Before you knew it was PTSD or depression, what did you think it was? I mean, was it just you just having a hard life? You just experiencing difficulties?
For me, I thought I was the problem. Because back then, growing up, I was being told things like, oh, I have emotions out of a woman, this, that, and the other, because, you know, I was labeled as soft based on my character. But so I grew up thinking I'm the problem. And it wasn't until I got to Grambling where I met with counselors and stuff where they actually had classes. You know, shout out to Grambling for just having, and any counselors in all the universities across the nation and stuff, because they were able to, they broke down what was considered verbal abuse, what was considered physical abuse, you know, sexual abuse, all this other stuff. And I had to take a step back and I realized, oh my gosh, that was me. And that was it was a scare factor during that time frame when I was in college, to the extent where I even questioned my own faith. So that's when so at the time frame it was me. I'm like, okay, clearly I am the problem. What can I do to fix myself? And it came to this worry factor to the point where I was saying sorry a lot to people, and I was told that even that's a sheer factor of trauma or you know, PTSD or whatnot. So
Okay. So, you know, so I thank, you know, Grambling and the counselors, you know, for seeing that. So did you like reach out, or did they see something in you to reach out to you, or did you just eventually say, hey, I got to talk to somebody once you got to Grambling, because you were now an adult,
right,
you're away from home where you know some of the trauma, you know, took place,
right,
and now you're away where you can be yourself or learn to say, hey, what's really going on? I need to tap into this.
right.
And so was it something that happened, or you just said, hey, I just need to speak up?
There was definitely something that happened, because there was more issues that arose from like, I guess, abuse, or even, as they say, family violence.
Okay.
So once that grew, it got to the point where I started reaching out for help, especially with counselors again. But even then, at the time frame, it was hard for me to find a settled church home, because I was really leaning heavily into just finding the right people I can talk to. Because I had people I did talk to that, you know, ended up disappointing me, because they ended up leaning towards, you know, the other side, and I'd be able to, and even back then too, and it goes back to my initial point too, where you were sharing trauma to certain people that we look up to. It came to a point in time where I was minimized. Like, it's not that bad. No, he ain't like that. And I'm like, and it hurt me. I'm like, I'm trying to share with you what happened. I understand what you're hearing, but this is what happened. This is my truth. But and it was during that time it took the right people who were willing to listen and to willing to care, to really hear my story out more. And then as time progressed on, you know, of course there were some other things, there are other challenges I faced, but what helped me initially was just finding the right group of people that was willing to listen. Because I literally could have gone anywhere else, but I thank God for the people that He blessed me with in my life. You know, my mother, my late grandmother, who still kept me on the straight and narrow road.
No, I think it is always difficult when you're trying to share your experience and people minimize it because they didn't experience it. And so, and I think, you know, I commend you for standing up and finding yourself and finding your voice where you could talk about, you know, your trauma and finding the right people. It does take a special group of people or the right person to hear your story and to listen to your truth, your experience. And so we do have to be discerning and wise in who we allow into our space and to hear, because when we're hurting, we're definitely wanting to, you know, someone to hear us and talk to us, you know, and hear us out. It's finding the right person. So I'm so grateful that you were able to find that person or those individuals at Grambling, you know, and now that post, you know, graduation, you know, and you being a young adult and navigating life as a young man, and still seeking to do that, you know, to continue to, you know, have people hear your voice and to share your story. And so, because even for me, it was a matter of, I need healing. And so if I'm going to overcome the depression, I need to get my story out. And once I did, it started opening doors for me to start talking about my struggle, my experience. And so I appreciate that. How do you handle now? How do you handle it with your friends or peers that still push that man up mentality?
It's kind of different now because I learned to carry myself in a way where where I don't. It's kind of odd, but I carry myself in a way where where I never got approached where people tell me that to my face.
Okay.
But if anything, now what I learned again is that I found the right people who I've grown to learn the value of discernment and just listening to God as far as like, hey, God, send me the right people I can talk to. And then it's like, because then with, when God bless you with the gift of discernment, he shows you which people to talk to. Because you can't just share your story with everybody.
No.
Because there was a speaker, I think it was Mel Robbins, but nobody's going to care unless you win, unless you get to the top. No one cares about your story.
Exactly.
Nobody's going to care. But at the same time, as true as that is, it's also sad.
Yeah.
Because you see all these situations and you see all the suicides that people lean into, people are hurting.
Yeah.
And it's like people try to find different ways to try to get that off their chest. So for me, I prayed for years to find the right people who I can talk to about the stuff I'm dealing with, because I know now that I can't share everything with everyone. Because and it took therapy. Thank God for therapy.
Yes.
Look, and that's because this is, and the thing about that, a lot of men older shun that.
Yeah.
And it's like the biggest thing that's needed, that's been helpful. And it's like, you need therapy, and there's nothing wrong with going to therapy.
Exactly.
But it gave me a peace of mind to move forward, because even just my time with being with teaching, I've seen that out of my students. From like, okay, nah, we gonna change the script a little bit. Hey man, come on, what's going on?
Yeah.
I ain't gonna tell you to man up.
Yeah.
You got some mess going on. If you got some mess going on, we gonna talk about it. So going back to your question though, I know I've grown to know the people. Even if someone was to come and say that to my face, I'm not gonna take that personal, because the way I see it, that person is going through their own trauma too, saying that mess that they don't even want to admit. So hearing that people are just gonna say whatever they want to say, because that's a pride issue. Yeah. And people, like where it says in the word, people don't know what it means to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. And if people practice that more, that's when we get to break that wall, that barrier of avoiding saying things like, "Oh, you need to man up." Yeah. "Oh, you don't have to say blase, blase, blase." So.
Okay. I want to dig a little bit more into, you talk about that man up mentality. How, is it viewed differently with young men versus, let's say, Generation X or the baby boomer generation? Because young people, as I said, the other day on a different podcast, that the generation, today's generation, they're more open to sharing. So how have, your conversations with other young men been like in talking about trauma, talking about PTSD, mental illness, mental health, just being overall just mentally healthy? What were those conversations like? That let's forget that man up mentality. Let's talk about it.
It varies based off of honestly, it varies based off of what they believe in, honestly.
Okay.
Because there are some that's in my age group. They grew up. They depend on who their folks were and whatnot. They grew up in that old school mentality where they still believe that.
Okay.
And yet there are some who went through that same trauma, or even situations worse than mine, where they saw how much that affected them. Because even with my friends now, we talk about it. We see that as a hindrance, because we tend to lock up our emotions, even when it comes to dating relationships, where we feel like we're gonna get judged the moment like we share and open up, and so it's like, oh, I can't trust you to open up because you may use that against me. And a lot of times, at least for me, sharing that's like it's like a form of weakness in a sense. It's like we get told, we're taught not to be weak. We gotta show strength. Yeah. We gotta be the alpha male or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, but even with that, that's where all the problems emerge, where that anger that anger comes in, that frustration comes in, where they end up that anger gets released in an unhealthy way.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that, at least with my friends that we talk about, it's like, no, we ain't gonna do this.
Okay.
This is before we get married, before we do anything, we gonna get ourselves together first.
Okay.
So it is one of those things where, we're in a sense, in a way, holding ourselves accountable, where we're able to share our struggles with each other without avoiding the negatives of saying, oh, no, that ain't nothing. Because we end up providing each other, useful advice. And that's one of the things that we do, because even with talking with older generations, there's just certain things we can't share, because it's like they didn't, and it is understandable because they didn't have the resources that we have now, which makes sense. So, but to answer your question, though, those are what those conversations are like. We're learning the value of being quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry.
Do y'all, you said you have these conversations. Do y'all kind of hold each other accountable? Are you checking in with each other when you're in relationships? How's your health doing? Your mental health? What does that look like? Give me an example of what does that look like, or when you may see someone, a friend that may be struggling. What does that look like in those conversations? How are you say, hey, you good? I'm checking in.
Yeah. Sometimes we're all in at least for my friend groups, we're all in a group chat together. So it's like when we would usually share, okay, my family's going through such, I'm going through this, I'm going through job challenges, y'all pray for me.
Okay.
And we would say it like that. And sometimes one of us, we would actually reach out to each other one-on-one individually. Okay. We would call, we'd check on them. Or sometimes we would drive to the workplace and say, hey, you good? Yeah. Because, everybody hurting. Yeah. We human. We are human beings. We deal with emotions. Ain't nobody walking through this life perfect. When you think about celebrities like Robin Williams, when you think about Twitch, Miss USA, people that went through all these mental health stuff that they battled with silently, it's hard. Like because words. What was it? There was a quote that someone mentioned: "A blow of words strikes deeper than a blow with a sword." Yeah. People don't realize the power of the tongue and how effective that is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So with that, we refrain from saying negative things to each other. We don't talk trash to each other. We don't do none of that, because we have established already that we have our own giants that we're facing. Mm-hmm. So it's like, to the extent where, again, we can't trust nobody. Who can we trust to share that information? Even and it's like it's important to have that community, because not everybody gonna have access to therapy and all these other resources. So I'm thankful. I thank God. I praise God for the friend group I have now, because they that are God fearing, that are rooted, that are saved by the blood of Jesus and stuff, where they're able to give the right advice that's going to move me forward in the right direction to the man God has called me to be.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I really appreciate you sharing that. And, just having a group of friends that not only hold you accountable, but that will support you. And also, looking at that scripture in James where it says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And then also recognizing that we're all going through something. Mm-hmm. And as the young people say, life be lifing.
life be lifing.
Life be lifing. And so, but to experience and appreciate that, hey, we're all going through something. It may not be the same struggle, right? But we're all going through something. And so rather than tear people down, let's build people up. Right. Let's edify people. And so, now, as you're kind of recognizing, trauma that you experience, PTSD, and just your health, mental health, what does taking care of your mental health look like for you day to day, and what's worked?
Well, number one thing, and this is gonna sound, churchy, typical, whatever, but I started reading my Bible again. Okay. Because there was a time frame where I wasn't, and I was doing my own thing because I was hurt with family drama and stuff. Like I was about to leave my faith and go somewhere else. I didn't care, because that's when you can't share what's going on, and you can't share that pain, you're gonna take that pain elsewhere to let it, because that's gonna come out one way or the other. Exactly. So, but because of the mistakes, due to the mistakes that I've made personally, that I had to go to God for. I'm like, oh nope.
Yeah.
Before we touch 30, let's get into the word real quick.
How old are you, Josh?
I'm 29. I've known her for 20 years. She's like another mother to me.
I remember
kid you
when
not.
you was just like 10 years old. Oh my gosh. Okay, you're getting old. Not me, you are.
No,
Okay.
y'all be saying that, y'all.
You're getting older. You're getting older. You're the same age as my son.
Yeah, that's like we grew up.
Yeah.
He's literally like another brother to me. I kid you not.
Oh gosh. Okay then. Okay, we're not gonna talk about age here. Okay. Okay. So what does that look like for you? What does it look like for you?
What it looks like for me now, like again, reading the word, not, and it's like growing up. Is that taking time to pray? Not just the simple, Lord's Prayer, just having that conversation with God. Because I'd be like, for me, it's like, God, they messing with me today. I want to quit.
Yeah.
I'm about to lose it. But I know you taking me this far. I know that you said in your word, the plans you have for me. Please give me the strength to pull through.
Yeah.
And even more so with that, walking, that's another thing.
Okay.
Because, the things that God has blessed us with, we tend to take for granted. Mm-hmm. We get so distracted with social media, with the materialistic things that we have in this world, that we tend to forget to do the littlest things that are free, which is going outside, getting the fresh air. Get taking everything in, because it's therapeutic.
Yes.
And even when I was going to therapy and stuff like that's one of the things I started doing. Okay. I played some music, played my worship music and stuff like that, where I was able just to detox. Yeah. Where I was able to to release all that frustration in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. And then another thing, again, community. The right community. Yeah. Because it's all of a sudden, being the homeschool person that I was when we grew up, memorizing scripture verses and stuff like that, nobody was doing that in my age bracket. Yeah. And I was always praying for people to find people I can relate to. Little did I know, all of a sudden, all these young adult ministries start coming out of nowhere. And I'm like, wow, cool. But it was good. It was a blessing, though, because I kid you not, it was one of those things that I look back like, this is what I prayed for a long time ago. Because even just in here, at other places, at other churches and stuff like that, I'm like, this is my community I've been looking for a long time. That's good. And it was one of those things where I was skeptical, because I'm like, what y'all really here for? Mm-hmm. What y'all doing here? But then at the same time, I was, as I get to hear about stories and stuff like that, I'm like, yo, no, this is an answer to prayer. Amen. So community has been a very, very big deal to me. Okay. To the point where I know who I need to shut out in my life, who I don't need in my life. Because if they saying those things that, you got to man up, you got to do this, I'm like, we ain't doing that. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm trying to be a father one day. I'm trying to have my own family, have kids and stuff like that. I want to do this the right way. So if you're gonna be like that, I'm sorry, kick rocks. We ain't rolling. Still love you. I'm gonna pray for you, but that's what it. So reading the word daily. Seeing what it is, because God always reveals something new. No matter a lot of people that don't read the word and stuff like that. The reading the Bible, it sets a foundation for how you need to maneuver and live your life. And for me, it shows a daily reminder, apart from when I'm not here at church, when it's just me, myself, and when it's just me and God. What do I need to do to get through this day? What do I need to do to get through this week? Sure. So that, reading the Bible, praying, and meditation, walking, exercising, and then, community. Mm-hmm. Right. Yes.
Removing out
right.
of the way. I mean, it's not, on social man, you know, you know, perfect life for me. All the
Yeah.
million people, a billion people on social media live a
Yeah.
navigate.
The one there are a few ways that I would say because I got caught up in that mess, and so but for me, one of the things I started doing, changing who I'm following on social media, because if they're not aligned with what I got it what I with where I'm going, then I'm sorry, we I gotta follow you. So sometimes you gotta filter this stuff because they came up with ways of filtering things that you don't want you don't want to see, that you can't that you can't see or whatnot. But even still, sometimes there'd be pop-ups that come up here and there. But again, it's that discipline. So if you're gonna use this one thing, but that's one thing. So you can filter out everything. You can follow what you need to follow, because there's some good content, there's some good information, resources out there that's helpful. Or you can do the Denzel Washington way, which is deleting it. because even he said, look, that's the biggest like setback for my generation, is that because we looking at all these different people and it's like they got all this money real quick and stuff like that. Like, why that should be me? Yeah. Like, no, because everybody on social media always posts the good things that they want people to see, and it's all platform based. But it's like, but even to Denzel Washington's point, shout out to Denzel, but like my
favorite actor.
But like because it's a distraction, it's a hindrance. Like, because again, we take things for granted. Like when you think about people that are living life blind, that are living life, as death, that don't have limbs and this, that, and the other. We take the littlest things for granted that we we can't stop and think. Not everything needs to be on there. Nobody does not, and that's the worst place to really even share your story. I mean, you can if it's helpful, but it's like, again, people are prideful.
Yeah.
They don't care. They will jest and jeer about you. They will joke about your lifestyle and stuff like that, and that's another mental health thing. So it's like you gotta have the self-discipline to either filter these things out. If you're gonna follow them, just know this is what's gonna happen. But if you can't deal with it, just do what Denzel way, delete it.
Yeah.
Don't leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
So it's simple as that.
No, that's good. I appreciate that because I think, again, social media will show you a curated life, and if you struggle with anything, it will really mess with your psyche, so to speak.
Yes.
And so you have to really ask yourself, is this really real? Am I watching a 30-second reel of someone's life? Is this how they live every day? No. And sometimes you have to ask yourself, those questions. Is this person really living this life? Yes, they go on vacation. Do we all go on vacation? Yes. But they're showing clips of their lives, which, yes, it may be happening, but is this something every day? So you have to really, as you said, filter. Filter those questions, ask yourself, so that you can stay in a space that's mentally healthy.
Right.
It's mentally healthy. If you could go back, as we kind of, wind things down, if you could go back and talk to yourself, Josh, at the worst point, what would be the one thing you would say to yourself?
I would just say, looking back at my worst point, I would say, you know what you got to do. God got you this far. You're not alone. God has equipped you with the tools that you need to get to where you need to be. Because the biggest downfall even during the time, I'll share a little bit. Coming from a homeschool background. I was very dependent.
Okay.
And it was one of those things where I wasn't given the space to really, you know, be the young man I'm supposed to be at the age I was when being 19, 20 years old at the time frame. Mm-hmm. And it was still that struggle with, letting go of that dependency. Mm-hmm. So it was, I think if anything, the biggest thing, I was struggling with fear. I was afraid. Yeah. But so if anything, if I can look back and tell myself back then, God has not given you the spirit of fear. Mm-hmm. I know they're just words, but but as we live life, the Bible comes to life the more each and every single day, every mm-hmm. year. So it's like, do not be afraid. Mm-hmm. Be strong, courageous. God got you.
Yeah, that's good.
You did not come this far to give up, to slip and fall. Mm. So get up, keep moving forward. This is not man up. Yeah. This is take heart. God has overcome the world. You can do this. Mm-hmm. Forget all the naysayers, the negatives. You can do it. Don't be afraid of trying new things. You got this. God's got you.
Amen, amen. And my last question, what do you wish the older generation, as a young man, you're what, Gen Z or a millennial?
Well, I'm kind of weird.
You're Gen Z, I think. You're Gen Z.
Okay.
And so what would you wish the older generation of men understood about what young men are going through today?
Tough love. There's a pro and a con to tough love. But too many times you focus too much on the tough than the love. Mm-hmm. Because when you push too much on the tough, that's all they're gonna get. Mm. If the tough outweighs the love, there ain't gonna be no love.
Mm. That's deep.
Because you wanna show them, you wanna be truthful, ain't nothing wrong with that. Be honest and stuff like that. But again, you put too much tough into that person, they gonna be so stiff to the point they ain't gonna share nothing. At some point, they're gonna break. Mm. Everybody goes to their breaking point. They're like, you can do all the whole alpha male, this, that, and the other, but it's like that. At some point, that person's gonna shatter. Yeah. I shattered. Yeah. And when that happens, it's like a reality point. It's like, I thought I was strong. Yeah. And it hurts, and so it's like, be careful with be mindful and be careful with how you go about with the tough love mentality, and was saying things, oh man, or even back in my day, like, look, I get it. It was back in your day. I didn't choose to be in this day. I didn't choose to be in this time frame, and I know you didn't either. My heart goes out to you. I get it. But again, I didn't ask to be here. I'm here. I didn't ask. It happens, right? So it's like get to the level of where that person is at, mm-hmm. and instead of doing that, encourage. Yeah. Because when you hold a baby, holding babies is different now. My friend, Kayla just had a newborn. Holding babies as an adult is different now because you see that innocence. You see, you're new to this life. Yeah. You're not gonna look at nobody looks at a newborn baby like, no, we gonna put you to work today. That's heartless. Everybody like, oh man, look, you gonna be all right. We gonna be good. Look, I got you. I'm your uncle. It's encouraging, it's enlightening. You want to mold that person. We gotta, like iron sharpens iron. Mold, build, don't tear down. Because the moment you do all that tough love mess,
goes away. It
goes in a different direction. Oh, you gonna get a tough something, but it ain't gonna be the way you thought it was gonna be. So be careful with that. Mold, build, iron sharpens iron. Encourage, uplift, because this life is rough. Yeah, it's hard out here, and I tried to do it in a direction that was away from God, but it hurt me. But I learned that with God all things are possible, and He can get me through. So.
Man, well, Josh, I really want to thank you so much for sharing your heart, sharing your truth, and sharing your journey. It's
Yes,
not
ma'am.
easy to share your journey, and because once you share your journey, it's out there. But I commend you again for sharing your journey because it's your journey. People can't take that away, and it makes you stronger. It makes you who you are today.
Yes,
As
ma'am.
I said the other day, men aren't built to be silent. They're built to be strong, to speak up, and to survive, and to ask for help. And so again, thank you. I appreciate you.
Anytime.
And thank you all for watching Grace with Charmaine. Until next time, take
Have a
care.
good one.